So 2 or 3 days ago, I did a video on Forza Horizon 5 using the Steam Deck, and the performance was kind of average. We had some stuttering and some slowdowns with pretty much all presets, and the high and ultra presets just wouldn't even run, it would just crash. Yesterday, we got an update for the Steam Deck that apparently has improved, or at least has fixed some of the issues with Forza Horizon 5. So I'm going to try the game out again, try the high and ultra preset as well, see if it actually runs. And yeah, and as always, if you like what you see, sub the channel, we have this as well. Alright, let's get into it. So far it's running way better than what it was before. It was pretty stuttery, to be honest, at 60 FPS with pretty much all presets. It would have slowdowns all over the place. But even though we are getting slowdowns right now, for the most part it was actually pretty good. Even at the Horizon Festival, it ran way better. I'm going to try and put the old overlay from the old video on top of this one so we can actually compare and see how it runs in real time. And yeah, but so far it's running way better. It's actually feeling way more playable. We are still having some stutters and some slowdowns with this preset, but I think once we cap the FPS down to 30, it will run way better, since it will give us some extra headroom to work with. Alright, let's go and push it up to medium settings. Now for the medium settings, I want to actually start the video off in the festival itself, since for low settings I forgot to do that. And from memory, this ran really poorly in the festival. It was super laggy, super choppy. And looking at the frame time graph, you can see that it's really smooth. We're still getting some spikes and slowdowns, but it's not as bad as what it was from what I can remember. And we're holding 60 FPS for the most part, with some dips as well still. It's not perfect, but it's running way better. This is actually way more playable at 60 FPS, whereas before, I would not want to play this game at 60, it just was too laggy. Now 30 FPS with the old patch, the old SteamOS version, it was pretty playable still at medium settings, but 60 FPS, it was pretty unplayable. 40 FPS, it was decent, but still had some major stutters and slowdowns. Now at this point I would actually say that this is quite playable. Obviously, like I said before, it is still having those slowdowns and stutters, and it's not a perfect 60, but it's still way better than what it was before. Alright, now playing at the high settings, with the previous version, I would load into the DLC by default, and then I would have to travel back to Mexico, and at this point I've let it sit for around 7 to 10 minutes, and it hasn't crashed. It's running really well. Our FPS is ranging between 30 to 50 FPS. And once we leave the city, we are actually pushing up to almost 60, the mid to high 50s. We are still getting some dips into the 40s, which is unfortunate, but the game is running really well, surprisingly. Now I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo this whole run again at high settings, but with a 30 FPS cap, and see how it runs. Now I'm pretty sure with the old version at medium settings we weren't actually fully utilizing our GPU. Now at high settings, GPU is fully maxed out and the clocks are actually capped as well to its maximum. We are pulling 27 watts, so you want to actually be plugged in for this. It will give you an hour and a half battery life. So portable play at high settings isn't really ideal, but medium settings, 30 FPS or even 40 FPS at this point, will be actually doable. Now I do want to go through the tunnel as well at high settings, just to see what kind of an FPS drop we'll get. We're sitting at 40 to 55 FPS normally, and then driving up to the city, we're going to drop down into the mid 40s, and then going through the tunnel, we had dips into the high 30s, so not bad. Alright, let's go and restart this at 30 FPS cap and see how it runs. Alright, we're doing this whole run again at 30 FPS. We can see that so far the frame time graph is really smooth. We haven't had any stutters yet, or any slowdowns. Obviously the car isn't going to be as responsive as something like 40, 50, 60 FPS, but hopefully we can have a more consistent experience. We've had one dip so far into the mid 20s or the high 20s, but other than that, has been really nice. Alright, now playing at the ultra settings, we are getting 30 FPS, so this could potentially be our 30 FPS preset. Let's try it out. Alright, even though we're getting 30 FPS for the most part, it is feeling quite unstable and quite laggy. We're not getting too many stutters, but it is like slowing down heaps. And yeah, I'd probably avoid playing at the ultra preset and mainly stick to low to the high presets. And one thing I forgot to mention is that you can obviously use FSR to get your FPS back and take off some load off your GPU. But at that point, it's not really worth playing at ultra settings anyway. Just play at high settings, you'll get most of the details, the game will look really good, and your game won't be lagging as bad as it is right now. Driving to the city, game will be lagging way more, sitting in the 20s at this point very consistently. The low 20s through the tunnel. Alright, let's go and try out the Hot Wheels DLC as well, because that ran really poorly with the old version. So hopefully it runs better now. Alright, now playing with the Hot Wheels DLC, this ran really poorly with the previous version. It was pretty unplayable at that point. I think we were getting 20 FPS at times, sitting in the 30s and 40s at medium settings. Right here, it is still quite laggy. We're still getting some major dips even at medium settings, but we are getting 50 FPS at times. So I don't know if it's actually improved. It's still pretty unplayable, I would say. I would not recommend playing this, but it does seem slightly improved. I think I want to try this out with a 30 FPS cap as well. See how this runs. And 30 FPS, it seems slightly better, but it still doesn't feel the best. Which is a bit of a shame because you just can't play the DLC. You're mainly stuck onto the mainland, to the main island. Alright, that's it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a like. And sub the channel, I'd appreciate it as well. Alright, see you next time.
In 100 meters,